Deciding to attend an out-of-state university was a risky decision for me. I was far from home, without a support system to help me if something went wrong. It was scary to move that far away from home, but a necessary fear. Coming to an out-of-state school helped me grow and develop into the person I am today. It opened my eyes to so many different experiences and lifestyles. It also taught me how to deal with 105-degree weather and 80% humidity all in one day. Choosing what university you attend is arguably the most important decision of your life. While it's only 4 years of your life, those are long and important 4 years. It's where you create your forever friend group, get an education, build your future, and most importantly, have fun. There's an endless list of things to consider when deciding where to go to school, and for many, cost is at the top of that list. For many institutions, out-of-state tuition is massively higher than in-state tuition, which limits many people's choices to inside the borders of the state they've lived in their whole lives. This large difference in tuition needs to be changed. Now, it's extremely easy to say that college tuition should be the same, whether it's in-state or out-of-state, but there's more to it than just trying to keep out-of-state students as just that, out-of-state. With an average in-state student paying $9,410 versus an average of $23,890 for an out-of-state student, it is easy to see what a disadvantage it would be to go to an out-of-state school. This is from the College Board. The main reason colleges charge out-of-state tuition is because an out-of-state student hasn't paid the specific state taxes that the school is in. This is what Nationwide talked about. Public institutions are subsidized by tax dollars, so an out-of-state student hasn't paid those taxes that help subsidize the school. The higher out-of-state cost is to make up for those unpaid taxes. This higher cost in tuition brings in more revenue for the school. Joanna Nesbitt went over this in her article. This is a big bonus for schools as it allows for more funds to spend on new buildings, professors, or even technology. Money is the driving factor behind a lot of decisions, so it seems very discouraging to know an out-of-state tuition can bring in so much extra revenue for schools. This makes the solution a little harder than just saying to make the price of tuition equal for all. Don't fear though, there is a solution. The best way to equal out tuition costs is to offer more reciprocity agreements. Essentially, a tuition reciprocity agreement will allow a qualified resident from one state to attend certain colleges in nearby states for a greatly reduced tuition rate. Jake Hampton talked about this. Mostly, these agreements are kept regionally. For example, the Midwest Student Exchange Program includes a few states that allow for a tuition reciprocity agreement, but only in the Midwest, and not all Midwest states participate. Of all the Midwest states, only 8 participate, which includes Indiana, Kansas, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, North Dakota, Ohio, and Wisconsin. Veronica Wickline went over this. With these limiting factors, it can be hard for students to get a reduced or in-state tuition when going to an out-of-state school. Tuition reciprocity agreements could be our saving grace when trying to solve the issue with the in-state versus out-of-state tuition issue. It would be easy to set up a trade deal. This way, each state could look at how many people want to go to out-of-state universities and how many students want to come to their universities within their states. They would trade those in-state spots for the other state's in-state tuition. For example, let's say 500 people from South Carolina want to go to Michigan for school, and 500 people from Michigan would like to go to South Carolina schools. South Carolina and Michigan would trade these 500 students with each other. The idea would be that each school is getting the same amount of money as the 500 in-state students who went to their respective in-state schools. This would give many students who wouldn't have ever had the option of leaving their state the chance to see a new culture and a new setting. Now, what would happen if only 300 South Carolinas want to go to Michigan, but 500 Michiganders want to go to South Carolina? A common occurrence. This is where the compromise would happen. Each state can limit how many students they trade for by stating that they will only give so many in-state tuition spots to as many out-of-state students coming in as they have in-state students leaving. This would allow universities to have out-of-state students, but the number of students paying that out-of-state rate would be far lower. This trade-like deal would encourage more students to explore their out-of-state options and hopefully take those out-of-state options. It would increase the number of students leaving their state, but would also allow for more out-of-staters to migrate into that new state. This is going to make the whole admittance process more difficult for schools to process. It's also going to take a little bit longer for them. It would take more number crunchers to decide how many students they are willing to trade for, and the easiest way to process something like this would be to use the numbers from the previous year. While the number of people leaving the state versus coming into the state is going to change each year, it will stay roughly constant. Using the numbers from the year before would allow schools to officially state how many students from each state they will take in before cutting off the in-state tuition trade deal. This would make the admissions process more competitive and encourage students to get applications in early, something that all schools would like. Increased competition to attend these out-of-state universities will have an additional benefit as well. Students will want to beat out the competition, which will make them work harder in school to achieve good grades. It will also encourage themselves to push themselves socially by joining clubs or competing in sports. This will create better-rounded students who are going to enter college with more ideas and brighter than without the reciprocity agreements. Creating and implementing these reciprocity agreements is going to take a lot of time, and it's going to take even more patience. While these agreements have been done on a smaller scale, it isn't done nationwide. It is still possible to put in place though. Every state is going to have their own agenda. Some will be willing to have a very high amount of reciprocity students, while other universities will only want to accept a few at a time. This is going to raise some challenges, but I believe having a board or group to monitor and help control all of these different agendas would make this process more organized. It would be less of a free-for-all. It would also give students a place to go to find the exact details of what schools are accepting from where and how many students they will each take. Going to an out-of-state university is a scary and daunting task. It can be very expensive, and this expense can deter many students from pushing themselves out of their comfort zones. It is not a decision many will regret, as it opens your eyes to a whole different place, culture, and a group of people that you would have never encountered before. These tuition reciprocity agreements would allow for more students to explore beyond the borders of their state that they've been in and lived in for so long. Being exposed to different cultures opens the eyes and perspectives of a person. It also gives many teenagers the chance to explore the freedoms they haven't had the opportunity to experience. And of course, they all need to test their adult lives before really going out into the real world. With limitations set to how many out-of-state students would receive the in-state rates, universities will be more willing to agree to these agreements, as it still gives them the additional benefit of having those out-of-state students. With this newfound freedom of exploring beyond the student state, we could hope to see more diversity across the country and maybe an increased acceptance of different backgrounds and cultures. Thank you for listening.